and let's start. So a very good morning, everybody. And today, this topic that we are planning to do with Snehil Dhall is one that is required for everybody. Power Up is a business community that believes that whatever it is that is required to get better productivity, get better business opportunities for entrepreneurs shall be spoken about and shall be considered to learn and understand. My name is Jaya Obhan and I'm the founder of Power Up, and I'm very glad today to be talking about disputes. And why we chose this topic is because disputes are the biggest time leakage, the biggest energy leakage, the biggest productivity leakage, and the biggest resource leakage. So if we want to save our time for better productivity and to grow our business and to do better for ourselves, then I think we must all understand that how important it is to resolve disputes without wasting a lot of time. And we have an expert here with us, hence introducing Integrity Unit, Crimophobia's alternate dispute resolution mechanism for government, corporate, families, and youth. We have with us today Snehil Dhall, who is a criminologist, and let's hear it from him. What is it that he would like to share with us about disputes? So Snehil, welcome, and we are very glad to have you here. Thank you for being
Thanks,
with us.
Thank you.
We would like you to introduce yourself so that people know a little more about you. Along with that, there is a question that comes to our mind which we would like you to address is, what is a criminology firm and what are its features? So if you could just throw a little light on that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jaya, for having me on your show. As a criminologist, I've done my degree in criminology. It's an honors degree in criminology, which I did it in the UK. And thereafter, the aspects of criminology is basically a combined study of crime, law, politics, psychology, and many other professional sectors put together. We are not the ones who practice law. We are the ones who practice defining crime, which is the ultimate requirement of defining justice. Because what exactly is justice for law is might not be the same for an individual who's suffering a particular issue. So while law has its own set format, there's something called case laws, in which every judge has its own vision based on whatever he has evaluated of the criminal behavior, the crime, and all the other aspects of a particular case. And every judgment made by him based on the logics and the patterns of the particular issue that he's listening to, or a dispute that he's listening to, is also a new law. That is why it is very commonly practiced among lawyers that they use a judgment copy of another court, that a particular judge in probably High Court or Supreme Court has given so and so judgment. So they want a same relief in their case as well. So the aspect of creating the logics is what we start our work with. So it reduces the time of investigating and evaluating and looking out for evidence and witnesses when you are not sure what the psychology behind the crime was. So at the moment, what happens is in the routine investigations of any case, that they first look out for the evidence and the witnesses, and based on that, they try to figure out what the motives are, what the intention is of the crime, and what exactly was the history. But we, as a criminologist, we have a complete a pattern which is a reverse pattern, in which we are starting with what is the motive, the intentions, the history behind the crime, and then back it with evidence. So it saves a lot of time, because just in case if the investigating teams have collected evidence and witnesses, and then later on they find out that this is not making sense as per the logic and the intention of the crime, then the entire investigation is completely wasted. And that is one of the primary reason why there are a lot of pending cases. There are backlogs and many other aspects which we observe in any kind of litigation. Because when I handle a particular case, I handle it based on what the requirements could be and what logics the court might be wanting to have for
Right.
evaluating a particular case. So that saves a lot of time. So
Correct.
in a nutshell, criminology firm is based on criminology, which is a study of crime and criminal behavior. It's a very scientific study. It is not a random study or a random detective or any other people who at times we get tagged along with. We do not go on field. We sit
Right.
in one location, evaluate all the documents and all the entire case details, and then only when we have understood that this is the intention and this is where we'll find out the evidence or witness, that's when we move out in the field. So
Right.
it's that kind of organic system of handling the entire system of crime.
Okay, so that was about what is your area, right? Also, we want to that's what the criminology firm is about. Could you tell us what is your area of work with entrepreneurs and businessmen or businesses? How can you help them per se?
So when businesses have been talking about, there are different kinds of issues that they face. There are certain internal issues and there are external issues. When specifically dealt with an MNC or a MSME, right from the coordination which is required between legal team to their PR team to their HR team and the MD department or whichever is the owner's designation or the decision maker's designation, they have to synchronize all the agencies in their own department, along with also focus on what exactly the issue is with the outside agencies. That could be police, it could be media, it could be politicians, it could be local activists or any other particular department of the government. That can be any taxation department or any other department. So when
Okay.
a particular dispute arises in a particular company, the coordination has to be in sync with at least 7 8 different kinds of people.
Okay.
Lawyers might not have an element of the HR situations that has to be considered as well. HR might not understand what exactly lawyers need as part of the evidence for taking in the courtroom.
Right.
Similarly, media team or the press release team, which is the PR team, they would also have a different perspective that if one wrong statement has been made, that will affect the case for the lawyers team. So everything has to be in sync. One wrong mistake might just create more trouble for the reputation of the entire company. It can create a lot of compensation issues for the company, plus
True.
the obvious legal litigations, which can be civil or criminal in nature. So when it comes to companies, my work is to create a kind of a platform where we are the control room for all the issues. Just the way in any control room of police or defense, the backend team decides what needs to be done because they have a bird's eye view of the entire
Okay.
situation. So that's
Right.
exactly what we do, of creating control room for the decision maker of a company, whether it is the directors or the owners, so that they can
Right.
appropriately have a logical answer how they want to take a particular situation further. So until
Okay.
unless the legal scenario is not clear for them and what kind of problem they might face, which is also called predictive policing and predictive analytics, which is commonly used in the police system as well, that they first evaluate where are the sensitive areas and where policing is required more, where more patrolling is required. Same
Right.
concept is required in companies as well, because at times they are just doing certain things without having a futuristic vision of legal scenarios.
Okay.
Lawyers do act upon it, but when it comes to their limitations, they are limited to what is happening inside the courtroom. But
Right.
maximum things also happen outside the court.
True.
So
True.
that is when my presence comes in picture, in which I'm giving the relevant documents to lawyers as well, and the PR team as well, and the HR team as well, so that there's minimum possibility of any legal issues and consequences. So that's how it has been dealt for the entrepreneurs and the businesses.
Okay. Having heard you, I have also came across a few corporates which asked us to give them some kind of media training for the interviews that they had to conduct with the media regarding what are the norms that they are carrying forward for COVID and stuff like that. I think that could be related to this only, that they have to speak very, very correctly, and it has to be to the point and with all the facts so that they don't get into trouble. that could be because of that.
Taking the example of COVID, there are repeated norms being and guidelines being created by the government.
Yes,
The companies have to read the order properly to avoid any consequences on that.
right.
So that again, either they hire a lawyer who has the time to understand every aspect and also give training to their internal team of the company, along with
Hmm.
having visitors and their protocol, along with any other norms which a particular business is supposed to follow
Huh.
to avoid any litigation on them. Because with COVID, there are a couple of epidemic acts been used. Maharashtra Police Acts, the policing acts been used for violation of the lockdown guidelines, and
Right.
that is creating a lot of criminal cases as well. Although the cops are not arresting immediately at times,
Right.
but that is going to be a backlog addition in the litigation that a company or any family member may have as well. So
Oh,
whether it is medical based crime understanding, or it is a civil based or a criminal based, every aspect of your business, whether it is fashion industry or hotel industry, or it can be construction, it can be import export, every aspect has the element of crime.
yeah. Yeah.
You have to understand crime. You don't have to understand law, because crime as a definition is all about anything which is offensive to a person or a group of people is called crime. Once
Okay.
that crime has been defined, then it's been modified into law, if at all the law is not been written for that particular offensive act. And that's
Okay.
when the case laws are being made or the judgments are being passed, and that is also considered as good as a law.
Okay. Okay. Got it. That's a great point. So, what exactly is this alternate dispute or alternate dispute resolution in the way you call it?
So, alternative dispute resolution is a very common term worldwide in the legal industry, which is based on mediation, negotiation, conciliation, and arbitration. I
Okay.
don't get into the arbitration part because those are the aspect where a lot of document has to be recorded and submitted in the courtroom as well. So that segment I keep it for the lawyers to handle as per
Okay.
their licenses and the permission that they have to practice in the relevant laws for the arbitration aspects. But nevertheless, there are two steps of the company that this entire system is based on. When it comes to mediation from the Crimophobia's interagency unit focuses on three aspects, which is mediation, negotiation, and conciliation. Mediation is as simple as having the two disagreeing parties to sit together and have a discussion what exactly the issue is. Second point comes in when the negotiation has been put forward, where the pointers and the requirements of both the parties have been understood. It's been evaluated. It's been a midway bridge is been defined where a negotiation can land up. And then conciliation comes in, where either we are bringing the conclusion with both the parties, or we are speaking individually to the parties to get the conclusion completed. In case any of these doesn't work from our company end, then we move to the second option, the second step, which is doing the same aspects and activities with the presence of lawyers. Now, the reason why lawyers are also important factor, because if at all, again, it fails with the lawyers,
Hmm.
everything which is recorded as
Hmm.
part of the negotiations and the arbitration routine, that can be given to the court accordingly. That
Okay.
based on the agreement of whichever party, whichever jurisdiction it was been signed, the arbitration was been carried, it failed, and now we have come to the court. But again, this is again a two-way system. We can have all these activities before the litigation has taken place, and it can also be taken when the litigation is also going on as well.
Okay.
So while the court is taking the hearings further, we can parallelly also have all these activities that midway, if at all the solution is possible, then we just submit a mutual consent in the court, and have it concluded that we have come to a conclusion, we are withdrawing the case and we are finishing the case there itself. So it's
Okay.
not just a a scenario where only people or companies are supposed to think about it before the litigation. Even during litigation, things can be handled. In a situation like COVID right now, most of the courts are not taking cases. Something which is important for us or urgent matter for us is not considered an urgent matter for the court. So what do you
Hmm.
do in that kind of scenario? So
Right.
that's when the entire working of our unit comes in picture, where you can save a lot of time on those lines.
Right. Okay. And that's how this comes into the picture, the alternate dispute resolution.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So under which law does your legal presence be justified against how lawyers operate? Like how does this system work?
So while lawyers have their sanad as a common term in India, or the license that they have to practice in a particular courtroom,
Hmm.
we as a criminologist or a alternative system for the legal services, we've got three aspects that we can focus on. One is Article 14, which is equality before law. Then there's Article 21, which is called right to life and personal liberty. So on these two aspects, the any individual or the family member or youth can approach us that they have their own liberty of handling the law or their litigation. Not to forget that every individual has their own liberty to fight their own case in the courtroom as well,
Right.
which is basically that if at all you do not want a lawyer to represent you, you can represent yourself. So in those scenarios, I support that particular victim how to speak up as well. What all needs to be spoken, how to take the trial further, how to argue in the court without creating any offensive situations and maintaining the decorum of the court as well. All those aspects has the personal liberty for a person, for any individual to practice. There are laws and provisions being provided for every citizen that they can fight their own case as well. But in
True.
those scenarios, lawyers might not assist you, maybe because their business might not be I mean not be as good as when an individual is arguing themselves. So I'm representing the individual to prepare their case.
Right.
Regardless,
Right.
I draft the entire case for the individual, and it is up to their decision. They want to take it to the lawyers for court case, to police for a police case, or to media for any kind of other assistance that media or any politician can provide them
Hmm.
with evidence and a proper documentation of the entire aspect. But when it
Right.
comes to my representation, that what I have evaluated, there's a section called 45 in the Evidence Act, which is meant for subject experts
Okay.
having a scientific study. So my reports are also provided to every individual or a company that that whatever has been submitted has been properly evaluated, investigated, and then it has been submitted by
Right.
the individual or the company. So
Right.
my reports as a subject expert are accepted by the courts.
Right. Right.
So that's how the entire process works out. Eventually, even this aspect is subjective to that the individual still wants to have a lawyer. Regardless, the other section, which is of Evidence Act 45, my reports are still been submitted with the help of the court case, which has been represented by a lawyer, to give more substance and more justice to the case. So it is easier for the lawyers as well to be more precise to the point, just the way the judges and the court like it. That
Hmm.
is to the point. It's exactly the pinpoint has been happened of the evidence. And not to forget, one of the most important aspect is whether it is police report or media report or the lawyer's report. Every report is subjective to scrutiny in the courtroom. So in
Right.
case anyone is thinking that a criminologist report might not be accepted or might not be taken into strong consideration, regardless, my positioning is the same as the positioning of any other agency in terms of police or lawyers or anyone, because even their evidence is being scrutinized. Their
Right.
reports are scrutinized.
Right.
Nothing is admissible in the court.
Right.
It's a very straightforward aspect. Police reports or the statement given in the police station are also subjected to scrutiny, and the person who has given the statement is supposed to repeat exactly same thing in the court in front of
Right.
the judge.
Mhm.
Only then it has been accepted. So
True.
I just give more technical and more expertise in the law aspect of understanding what is crime and criminal behavior before it has been taken further for its relevant conclusion.
Right. So great, great. That's something really helpful, yeah. And it's something that I think is most needed, but many people don't even know about something like this exists. So thank you for sharing that. But having understood, the entire thing, I would still request if you could just give us a small case study of or something of how Crimophobia's integrity unit works. Like, anything that comes to your mind, some case or some case study you could give us.
Now, for example, in a case where a family dispute is going on, in which probably you can take a reference of any kind of a domestic violence. In those kind of scenarios, if at all the matter has been resolved within the four walls of the family, everything is fine. But the moment it comes out of it, taking an example of the ongoing situations of a suicide case of an actor as well, every angle has been scrutinized, right from the family members of both the parties, to the business aspects, to the financial aspects, to the court scenarios, to police station scenarios, and many other scenarios are being taken into consideration. It's
Hmm.
not just one angle being used in that particular case as well. So when a situation is coming in front of the head of the family or the head of the person who's handling all the complaints, they need to have again a overview and a bird's eye view of what is happening in which location. It's a multi-city case where FIR has been filed in a different state of India, and the act of the crime happened in a different state, and then who is going to be deciding which police is going to be handling, that is happening in a third state.
Yeah,
So
true.
a coordination is happening between three states, in
Correct.
which the policing teams are also of three different locations, which is the two states plus a central investigation as well,
Right.
along with having lawyers for handling the main case, along with the regional issues as well. So
Hmm.
the number of coordination which is required, the number of, and then again there's the financial policing also which has come into picture. So
Hmm.
there's an ongoing civil dispute happening, an ongoing criminal dispute happening, and there's an ongoing media trial happening, which everything has to be minutely been verified, checked. The statements cannot be made just randomly, because that can be used against any particular party. So
Right.
those are the aspects that comes in the scenarios of families or youth or individuals in at large. Same
True.
scenario when it comes to any corporate case. There's a financial fraud, or and that financial fraud, the company is not aware which particular person within the company has done it,
Right.
because it has an external element and an internal element. When
Okay.
it comes to external element, the money has gone to some location, it has to be retrieved, and that's why you're having different agencies to support for recovery of those funds. So the fund
Right.
recovery also has been taken care of by me, in which
Okay.
we are evaluating what the issue is. But at the same time, there's an internal issue as well. Someone has leaked the information, there has been a
Right.
data leak of some kind, or something
Right.
has been compromised. Again, that
Right.
has to be regulated, verified, so that it doesn't happen again for the company.
True. True.
So those blueprint needs to be handled in case the situation of this particular money laundering or particular any kind of issue for per se needs a reputation management. So the
Hmm.
entire reputation management of the company and the owner or the relevant employees of that company again has to be dealt. They need to be speaking appropriately with the media or with any other party who's going to be investigating or be handling it. They need to understand what particular scenarios the agencies or they may face in the due course of time of that particular investigation. And while the investigation is going on, the reputation of the company also has to be maintained appropriately.
Right.
The internal company members, they don't get into a psychological instability that police or any other agency or the owners might fire them, or they might be put under a scrutiny that a doubt has been created on them. So a team
Right.
building issue also comes in picture. So right
Oh,
from handling the psychological aspects of the company, of the team members, to the legal aspects, everything has been dealt. It is
right.
also called medico legal cases at certain scenario where cases like rapes or murders, it requires a medical report. So the practice of hospitals is very specific. They will stamp the particular medical scenario as a MLC case, which is medico legal case.
Hmm.
Same aspect is not being dealt in the same way when it comes to psychological issues. It's
Hmm.
commonly mentioned by everyone there has been a mental harassment. I've got a trauma because of so and so issue. But who defines that trauma? Who defines that particular mental harassment? That has to
Hmm.
be appropriately defined. Until unless the agencies or other relevant locations might not understand what exactly
Hmm.
have you faced when it comes to mental harassment.
True.
It can be as good as a corporate spouse issue, which is again a very common thing, where family disputes are coming in office because there is a new system of corporate spouse as well. So they have their own couple scenario at office. Domestic issues land the company also into trouble, because by end of the day that is a family member of someone and he's coming and working. So
Right.
again, psychological issue which can convert into a legal issue of civil or criminal in nature and
Right.
make more problems. So there are all
True.
kinds of scenarios that happens in companies as well, which has to be dealt legally and psychologically. So because
Right.
I'm good in my criminal psychology aspect, and we also have a clinic for it, which is called crime psychology clinic, in which we are handling the entire segment of rehabilitation to therapies to making
Oh,
sure that the problem of a particular legal depression doesn't shift to a bigger issue.
right.
For instance, a legal problem faced by a person is creating a psychological disorder for a person, a mental instability, which is a very basic psychological problem due to
Hmm.
stress. Stress creates a lot of medical issues as well. But when it comes to handling those aspects of a psychological issue or a stress level, lawyers are not equipped for psychological counselors, and psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors are not equipped for a legal based psychology support.
Right.
So that's when again we come in picture, because when we are counseling, we are providing the aspects of every legal issues. So we understand what the legal problem is, and then we provide the psychological support, so to reduce their stress level and everything. So
Right.
those are certain things which the HR handles in companies. But at the same time, when it is a legal complication, it's a very normal thing that psychologists take a step back, because they are not equipped for giving legal guidance.
True.
So
True.
that's the bridge that we get into, where providing medical support and legal support at the same time.
Right. That's great, yeah. And we have more people joining in even now. So I'm sure that the entire crux of what you said is going to be helpful to people, because honestly, this is one field that most of us don't know about, that something like this exists. After talking to you, I got to know that, okay, there is this combination of, something called as criminology, and then, law, and then psychology, and, that can be combined into dealing with disputes in so many ways, which can be helpful to people otherwise. So I have a lot more questions for you, but before that, I think let's also open it up to our audience if they might want to add something or ask something, so that it could help them also. So, guys, thank you for joining in, first of all. And any of you, if you have any questions about this or about this concept, please feel free to ask us now. You can unmute yourself and throw a question at us, or you can put it in the chat, and we are here to see it. Um, Snehil is right here to help us out. Snehil, there is one problem also that, not many people want to really talk about these kind of issues like that. But yeah, I'm sure most of us have so many, many, many questions. So till the time we get a question, I just had a scenario. I was just talking to a friend about this, and I got to know that there was a partnership built, and so it was in India and UK, and now they have split. A split in the sense there have been certain disputes and they don't agree on certain terms and they want to leave the partnership, but they are not able to come to a consensus as to how the whole thing should be, resolved. In the sense that the person who is in UK owes money to the person who's in India, and he has no resources to return that money. So, even during these kind of scenarios, are your services helpful? Does criminology come into picture, or then this has to be dealt in with a separate kind of a law firm?
Well, these are the specific areas that I handle in particular, because here you need to understand the two jurisdictions. They're two different countries, so there are two different laws going on. There's a
Okay.
scenario where the person might not come back as well, or even if he wants to come back, uh, he would prefer coming when a proper solution has been concluded.
Right.
So on all those aspects, when it comes to beginning the mediation, and then getting into the negotiation aspects, and then concluding the entire discussion, um, so all those aspects are being dealt by me. uh, just the way there is a point that you have mentioned, that probably they might not have the finances to pay back.
Yeah.
They might have some alternative aspect that we can bring in, which can be probably in a barter system, or there's some kind of an assurance being created on pen and paper, so that in case he's not able to pay in a due course of time that has been decided mutually, then we'll have another aspect of legalities that will handle the entire situation. So there are many
Oh,
alternatives to having the fund recovery as well. But again,
oh,
the person mentioning about he or she doesn't have funds for returning doesn't make any sense at times, because for a start, you have, as you've mentioned, he's not in India, he's in the UK. The percentage of currency exchange is obviously going to be a different aspect to be dealt in, and at
right.
the same time, if at all he doesn't have it, when
Hmm.
financial aspect come in picture, there are many family members, there are many other resources that are scrutinized. He must have kept the money in some other person's name,
Hmm.
or he must have parked the money in some other country or in some other account, which at the moment we are not aware of. So on those lines, one of the board of advisor of my company, we have multiple kinds of board of advisors of different industries. So when such kind of scenario comes in, there is something called international investigation as well that we handle, in which we are bringing our teams in that location and in this location to scrutinize every aspect as much as is possible, to
Right.
figure out that if the money is not available with him, then who are the other set of people who may have it.
Right.
I'm assuming that you must have heard few things when financial cases comes in picture. The family members are also being tagged in. Their financial details are also being verified, that if
True.
their background of working is not that much, so how much savings they have in their account. So everything gets scrutinized, and we get into all those aspects. In one of the matrimonial cases, this had happened, in which the husband was mentioning that he doesn't have any money for the alimony because he's bankrupt. But then, based on our routine, we found the entire money was been parked in a different country in a stock account,
Right.
the share market stock account.
Right.
So we provided those documents to the court, and then they took the entire income tax returns, how the money reached, in which year the money was being transferred to the other country or the other account, and there are many patterns of that to figure out.
Right.
So it's not very easy for anyone to just randomly make statements, because when a person lies, he has to remember what was the previous lie, and that
Very.
is when the loophole comes in picture, because two different statements made by a person also becomes a problem for the same person.
Right, 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 right. That's a great one, Snehil. We have a question from audience. Okay, Parini is saying very informative session. Thank you, Jaya and Snehil. Thank you, Parini. We have another question. It's privately asked, so I don't know whether to name the person or no. He says, I want to ask about the view of him on the controversy of Sushant Singh. We will get more clarity if possible. I don't know if we really want to touch upon a topic like that because it's like a huge
Well,
topic.
the case is already going on, so it's better to keep it away. But regardless, since day one, the only thing that I can probably mention is that the body was never been seen by the police hanging. It was on the bed when uh, it was been discovered by the police. So that aspect itself begins with the entire scenario of a subjective situation of it being a suicide or any other thing, which is subjected to investigation. Investigations are going on. So let's see what happens.
True, true, true. We have another question here, and that is from Ansi. She says, is this only for entrepreneurs or employees also come under this umbrella?
Um, well, the topic that I'm talking about as interagency unit, yes, it comes for every individual, whether it is employees or entrepreneurs or family members or youth, because even a family of four and a conflict inside a family as well requires a multiple set of coordination. There could be a scenario that both husband wife side family needs to be coordinated with. The witnesses has to be updated, the stories has to be compiled, which is what is happening in Sushant's case as well, where every aspect has been scrutinized. So it's not just for entrepreneurs, it is for employees as well, and at the same time it is also for families as well, because even they have to face a lot of departments when it comes to legalities. So it's for everyone. And yeah,
Right.
not to forget, my scenario starts from the age of 6 years onwards, because certain time at certain situations, even kids are supposed to appear in the court in a child custody case where the judge wants to actually physically see the child. The police stations also at times have a requirement to observe the child and have their basic verifications. So it's not just for any adult, even for kids is what I handle. When there are cases in the schools in which the school needs to resolve the issue without making the kids feel scared about the law, and again support their reputation as well of the school, so that nothing goes wrong in the near future. Schools also call me for giving massive rehabilitation and therapy sessions when a particular situation has already happened in the school among the kids or something of those kind of the issues, and they are not at the legal position to resolve it without making it sound legal. Lawyers might just make the kids feel more intimidated. So I bring that element of the child psychology, where the child is not being feeling disrupted with their routine, and still the work has been completed, which could be a legal problem for the school or for the kid. So it's right from the age of 6 till senior citizens, regardless of the corporates or the government sector. It's also for families and individuals and youth as well. So we cover all of them.
Right, right, right. Great. So that means it's for employees as well as for
Yes.
entrepreneurs and all the other areas that we spoke about, right?
Yeah.
So great. And she's also saying, okay, thank you. So yes, I think that was about it. And do I see any more questions? All right. So that's about it for now. And all those have joined in. If you could help us with your details so that they could get in touch with you if in case they might need something or any of these things. Ronak says he's saying something. Let me just read it out. He says superb session. Thank you, Ronak. So if you could help them, because just in case somebody might have a query, they can touch base with you. And of course, those that need to get in touch with Snehil can also connect with me, and I will pass you on to him if you have any queries regarding the realm of what he spoke about. And yes, we stay connected. So anything you want to say before leaving, Snehil, and if you could help us with some details where people could connect with you.
Well, my mobile number is 933333915. In case anyone wants to speak to me about having a setup which is something I've named as Crimophobia as an interagency unit. It is for families and for companies and government, all of them. So anyone wants any support of any kind where there are multiple scenarios that has to be dealt in a particular problem. Problem can be legal, or it can be just a domestic thing which has to be dealt without any legal complications. So you can let me know. And thanks a lot, Jaya, for having me, and thanks a lot all the participants who have come and heard about me.
Yes, thank you so much, Snehil. It was really a pleasure having you, and we still have comments coming in. Sailesh ji says, nice session. Thank you, Sailesh. Kaval Kalsi says, an
Thank you.
informative section. Thank you for the input, Snehil, and thank you, Jaya. Thank you, Kaval. Really great to have you. Ansi says, thank you so much. Thank you, Ansi. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
each one of you, for joining in today and, helping us create this awareness that, that very few people know about. And really, thank you so much, Snehil. This was really
Thank you.
insightful. And we will touch base soon again for many more such informative sessions. And also when, if people need to connect with you, Ansi says it's very much needed. Yes, indeed it is. So thank you for joining us today, all of you. And we stay connected till we meet again. See you soon. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.